This is something I talked about a couple of days ago, and it was another doctor. This is the second one so far as I know, that has come out and said they will not treat individuals who are unvaccinated. And people bring up the Hippocratic Oath. People bring up the fact that, hey, doctors are supposed to treat anybody. And this has taken things to another level, too, because if you've got something serious, you go into the ER. What if a doctor does say to you, hey, are you vaccinated? And if you say no, they walk away or they're not going to treat you. I want to bring on Todd Furniss, author of the 60% Solution, Rethinking Healthcare. Todd, does this go against everything doctors are supposed to stand for?
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me. And in a way, yes, it does. There's a moral code that was written about in the Lancet recently that says that doctors have the obligation to promote and protect health. Now, that's a little bit different from the Hippocratic Oath that says that to do no harm. And there's no legal obligation for a doctor to treat a patient other than perhaps in the ER. But there was an explosive story coming out of Texas a couple of weeks ago, and I think you and I may have spoken about this, where a doctor said, and put it actually in a memorandum, that vaccination status should be considered in triage decisions in the ER. In other words, if you came into the ER, they could ask the question, and they should ask the question, have you been vaccinated, before deciding if and how the doctor was going to treat you in the emergency room.
Todd, has this reached a level that you didn't even think it would reach as far as the insanity? First of all, if these doctors are that concerned, that means they're vaccinated. So what are they worried about? Second of all, this is a virus with a 99.9% survivability rate. And third, at what point do we stop losing our minds over the coronavirus?
You're absolutely right. And there's no way that most could have seen not only the politicization of a medical issue like a virus. I mean, we didn't have this problem, I don't recall anyway, even with AIDS, where people went this far around the bend, much less the SARS virus or bird flu or avian flu or any of these other things, or even Ebola, which we had here in Dallas. But what surprises me is just the unimaginable intellectual laziness of the people involved. And by that, what I mean is people are saying you have to have a vaccination. Okay, what about if you've already had COVID? And you hear almost no discussion about that whatsoever. And that seems completely illogical. Okay, what about if it's a pregnant mother? What about if the person has blood clotting tendencies? Okay, those are all very important and valid things to consider, and we shouldn't be in a position where we have to defend our decision not to get the vaccination, and we shouldn't have a legal mandate forcing us to get a vaccination. All it does is it causes people to dig in further and say, why should I do something that the government seems so hell-bent on forcing me to do? And then, especially when the government is so erratic in the responses it gives to us, and further, when we don't have good answers on whether or not the vaccine actually prevents an occurrence or a reoccurrence of either COVID or Delta or Lambda or Mu or whatever else is coming in the Greek alphabet.
Talking to Todd Furniss right now, author of the new book, The 60% Solution, Rethinking Healthcare. I talked yesterday about a doctor in Pittsburgh, Allegheny Health Network. His name is Dr. Matthew Moffat. He was talking about face masks and all these mask mandates. And he said there is scientific proof that masks decrease the spread of droplets by up to 75%. And he cited a survey or a study out of Bangladesh, which, okay, it's Bangladesh. But anyway, my point to this is, there are, when science is not conclusive, what's being missed in all this, Todd? You don't hear anybody saying there is conclusive proof that masks work, or there is conclusive proof about the vaccination, blah, blah, blah. We wouldn't put somebody on death row if you were on a jury and you were 50-50 on whether or not he was guilty. Yet we are making people do things pertaining to this virus when the scientific world is 50-50. I mean, the Great Barrington Declaration, you've got a number of medical, public health scientists, medical practitioners. I'm talking about professors at Oxford, professors at Stanford, epidemiologists, oncologists, infectious disease experts from all over the place saying, look, lockdowns are bad, masks are ineffective, we need to let people who are healthy live their lives, build up natural immunity. Why are they being drowned out? Why are they not being? Why is it if somebody says one thing scientifically, all the other ones that are contrary to that belief are just ignored?
Well, in a simple word, it's fear. We've created a culture of fear. And think about it. Our fathers and grandfathers, they weren't afraid of much at all. They went to war. They went to the moon. We led a culture of bravery. And instead what has occurred is we've replaced that with a culture of fear. I mean, your point in the opening remarks was spot on. The survival rate for this disease is 99.9+%. If you have had the vaccination and you get the Delta variant, the chance that you'll die is 0.0007%. So if I said to you, hey, there's a ball game coming up and the Eagles are playing the Jets, and you have a 99.9% chance of winning, are you taking the bet? Of course you are, 100 days out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've done is we've created this perception that's really completely arresting the minds and hearts of young people now that say, hey, wait a minute. The young people today believe the risk of their death from COVID is over 10 times what it actually is. That's a travesty. That's a terrible thing to impose on kids, young people generally, but especially kids. And what we need to do is we need to take the right kinds of steps, allow people to be people, allow parents to be parents, because I am really, really worried about what's happening to school kids, not only with masks, but with the educational consequences of masks. Now, they don't learn as well. They can't see teachers enunciating.
Mm-hmm.
Reading skills deteriorate. Math skills deteriorate. Participation goes down. And what to your opening remarks, which were so spot on, we don't have conclusive evidence that masks do work, but we do have conclusive evidence that masks do harm. We know that children, if they are able to keep the masks on, running around and breathing hot air that's moist and a breeding ground for bacteria is not a good thing. So why would we impose that on children? Why would we impose that with the corresponding fear and anxiety of thinking they're going to die when, in fact, the mortality rate for a child is infinitesimally small? It doesn't make any sense. And it's, in fact, not only is it a bad thing, I would submit to you that it's borderline criminal to do such a thing to a child.
Real quick, before I let you go, do you think more doctors will come out like these two and say we're not going to treat the unvaccinated, or do you think that these two are an anomaly?
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic that these two are an anomaly, and similarly that the folks down in Dallas who came out with their memo are also an anomaly, because I think doctors generally are mission-oriented, compassionate caregivers who want to do the right thing. But like every population of people, you always have people who want to come out and do something outlandish because it gets them a lot of attention for being outrageous. It's the wrong thing for them to have done, and I think they'll likely pay some sort of a price for having done it.
All right. Todd, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.